My new project is to make models of that will allow us to create the Liverpool Overhead Railway, the Dockers umbrella. And so I've just opened up Trainz here, and I've made some models so far to help with doing this. So if I go over to here, and there are a number of fixed track items which are the beginning of the whole process of making the Liverpool Overhead Railway. And the first models which I'm doing, so this is part one, which is making the actual viaduct, the very distinctive viaduct. So let's have a look at that. There's a 15-foot length of the viaduct. Let's zoom in, have a look, and you can see there that it's just a section of the viaduct with the supporting columns, fixed track, so it's a scenery item, and also I've made two sections without the uprights, but they're set at the correct height. There they are floating. That's another 15-foot section, and here's a 5-foot section, and you'll see why I've made them of those lengths. The normal distance between the uprights, if I go back here, 15-foot track with uprights, the normal distance was about 50 feet between, and these are 15-foot long. So if you take 2 at 35, 2 at 15 rather, give you 30, plus 5, it gives you 35, plus 7.5, plus another 15 there, 7.5 there, and 7.5 there. That gives you the full 50 foot between those sections. So let's just click them together. So there's a 15-foot section. Let's do another one. Here it is, and there's another 15-foot section. Oop, there we are. And let's bring the 5-foot section over. Here it is. And the red, of course, is just showing that it's using invisible track. This is just in Surveyor. And if I move those over to, let's try and move those. There we are. Oops. Try and get them to link up. They should link up. Where are we? Should just snap together. I wonder why it's not doing that. Let's just delete that 15-foot bit. Bring in another bit. Where are we? There we are. That should just snap together. And this should then just snap to that. There we are. So that gives you the 50-foot standard distance between the uprights. And what I've done is the whole of the Liverpool Overhead Railway was, as you might imagine, overhead, and there was room underneath for twin tracks for the dock railway, and also that was a cobbled roadway for different vehicles. And I'm just looking now, I don't know why it does it, but I don't get an automatic shadow with these. And of course when we come on to splines, well, we've had plenty of fun trying to get splines to throw a shadow as well. So here's one of the curves, and the arrangement with the curves is, I'm just rotating that 180 degrees, and the arrangement 180, there we are. And the arrangement with the curves is that the girders just did a dog leg from there to there, but the track of course curved, so it has to be quite a gentle. We'll see that when I take it into driver. So that's 5 degrees on the curve, and then you would want to put another 5 degree, say that way round, and let's add in a couple of 15-foot sections. There we go. So it's pretty much like a Hornby train set with a fixed length of the fixed track sections, just sort of clicking together from your days of making a Hornby train set on the kitchen table or whatever, or across the dining room floor. So there's a 10-degree one, and always what you want to do is to just rotate that around 180 degrees. There we are, and so that will now put a sharper curve on it, and you can see we're beginning to get the look of the original as it snaked its way around the docks, between the docks and the Liver building and the other Cunard buildings and various along the waterfront there. And having 50 foot in between, that's more than 50 foot there by the looks of it, so you might want to just take out one of those 15 footers. Let's just delete one of those 15 foot lengths in and put maybe a 5 degree, no, that's the wrong one, a 5 foot length. You basically can't have too many uprights. They seem to have been very frequent on some sections because they had to get around roads, they had to get around the walls and all this sort of thing. Even that probably looks a bit too much. Could probably lose that 5 foot section and just link that up to there. There we are, that looks a bit better. It should never really look too much more than that. I think maybe even the 15 in there is maybe a bit too long, but it's up to you. Just don't go crazy making very long lengths of track, unsupported track. But as I say, because of the dock wall and the various other bits and bobs that it had to negotiate snaking its way around the docks, then there are all sorts of strange repeats of the uprights. Just click those on there. Now if I was to put in another 15 with the upright, one of the things of course is there were crossovers and point work of course generally, and obviously with fixed track it's an issue. So what I've done is I've also introduced track here, and 4 types of track, which I'm really sort of trying to compromise here. I did try and work out how to do procedural track, but it was just a non-starter. There's just no way I can do that, I don't think. So what I've done is I've produced some different types of track. The track with the third rail, it was a third rail electric system, track with the third rail, track without, and then just plain track, I'll put it at the front here, with the third rail, and track with no third rail. So what I've tried to do here is, in order to create the crossovers, which we obviously couldn't do with fixed track, I've introduced splines, track splines. They're just like the original Trainz track splines, without any sort of particular, without making the blades and all the rest of it for the procedural track. The procedural track, if I was to make it, would have to incorporate, well, let me show you. This is what it would have to incorporate, and I suppose I could work out a way of doing it, but I must admit I haven't really. 5.3, so I want to make it all 5.3 meters high. That's the standard height there. So let's just jump these up. You'll see there that I've got quite a bit, including this rather strange but absolutely correct, because I've taken it from the original plans. It's published in the Engineer in 1898, I think it was. So what I've done here is I've tried to reproduce track splines so that we could have crossovers, but they won't generate the points blades as in procedural track. The crossovers of course do not have the third rail, so in order to make this appear to be the correct way of doing it, give it the correct look, what I've done is created viaduct sections. Now this is the fiddly bit. because what I have to do here, what you have to do here is basically make up the crossover separate from the, so let's just join that together there, and then let's add another viaduct with the third rail, and these are handed. In other words, you know, they're only one side have half the viaduct, so you really do need to make sure that you put them the right way around. So let's do this, bring that there, and this over here for the mo, and really they're going to be quite close together. They're going to be closer together than this because this has got to be less than 50 feet to allow for the crossover and for the supports. Okay, so there's the viaduct, so let's do another couple of lengths of that, and I'm going to go this way this time. No, I'm going to go that way this time. I think you can get the idea that it's going to be, and no third rail, and just click it together. And of course the third rail is stopped when it goes over the crossover. That's why I've had to make it like this. And let's just make sure everything is at 5.3 meters. And then what we want is to connect those as a crossover. So I shall use this bit of track here, which I've already got. So let's just move that over. And now I've got to persuade it to link up. So it's okay, it's made one junction there. I have found that at times it seems to want to create two junctions. I don't know why, but those two seem okay. So that's what we're going to end up with. So now this is the only complicated bit really, because we've got to allow for the junction to snap into the fixed track. So these have got to be quite short pieces. I know that looks very awkward at the moment, but don't worry, it's going to, oops, no, it's going to look very awkward for a bit. So let's just move these over a bit, so it's not such a pain for trains. And let's go to the down view. If I can, I'm going to experiment with, oh thank you, that's our seed for the sun coming on its way. If I can, what I will do is try and, gosh, that is awkward, isn't it? Bring that over. So it's not such a, the more you do this, the better you get at it. That's all I can say. I think if I was to bring that over there a bit, and then I was to connect that one up, yes, and then let's bring that over a bit, move that one much closer into there. I'm sure you're beginning to get the idea. It's not complicated once you've persuaded these nodes, these spline points, to all connect up. And once we've got them all tied in, then you'll see how it looks. Oops, let's try and this is the last one to bring in. There we are. Now I've just got to go look top down on it, and basically now I've just got to move these spline points, these points here, so that we get a nice, keep that as short as possible, that bit of viaduct there, and this one over here and down, give us a crossover. You see where I'm going with this. And now you've just got to make adjustments here to get the look of this patent what do you call it, well, I'm not sure, sleepering or track bed. Also it's worth sharpening these up, straightening them up rather. That's actually on a curve, so that needs to have been straight actually. In fact, what I should do is, if I move that, let's come back a bit, have a look. If I move that over a bit, I'm not sure that's going to look any better. Let's undo that. So anyway, you get the idea. That's quite a sharp crossover there, so you can tidy it up by adjusting these these spline points, bringing it down. Basically what you want to do is make sure that the two stopped ends, the two ends of the conductor rail just about marry up. So it is a bit fiddly, but it is worth the doing, because you end up with a nice looking bit of viaduct. Not bad, not bad, considering the sort of problems that you can have laying this sort of stuff. The gap there is a bit big, I don't like that, and there's a gap there, but more or less I think we're there. So this is very much work in progress. You would want to replace these levers with invisible levers. Those are the ones that are automatically generated, but that then is the Liverpool Overhead Railway Viaduct, well on its way. And once this it's with, I've just sent it to my beta tester Bob, and once he's had a go at it and we identified the issues, then that will be phase 1. Phase 2 will be building the rolling stock to run on this. These are 45-foot long motor cars and I think about a 30-foot long centre car. They ran as 2 motor cars with a centre car, the different classes. So that needs, you can see there with the way the track is, it needs sorting out. The reason why I've hesitated to making procedural track on this is how I incorporate. I suppose the track bed is pretty straightforward, the sleepers, except having wrestled with getting Brunel's broad gauge into procedural track, I'm less than happy about doing the same with this procedural track. I'm not too keen on that either. That's one of the issues I'm going to have to look at. Let's just see if that is triggering okay. Yeah. That one's triggering okay. Of course, I'm used now to seeing procedural track blades moving and not getting that, and actually that there is because of the shortness of the section of the track that's repeated all the way along there. In fact, you can see there on this one I've actually got more insulators than I really need, but I didn't want to reduce the length of the increase the length of the spline point, which would make curves rather awkward. This is really just for areas where the track is needs to run on top of the viaduct without being part of it. I think that may be unnecessary, that particular spline, but certainly the spline without the conductor rail is absolutely vital for transferring across from one to the other. What I might do, looking at it, I wonder, we might be able to get away with not having a section of spline, track spline there and there. I'll experiment with that. So this is still very much work in progress, but I thought it would be useful to show you what sort of work I've been slowly getting on with in the middle of all the my actual work that I have to do. I was just going to put a Great Western locomotive on there. That's probably, let's stick a 94 XX on. There we are, and let's have a quick drive in Trainz. Yeah, we'll save it, call it new route, doesn't matter. And so this is really just to show you something with a locomotive on. You can see now how the track is beginning to look, and if you go online and just have a look in Google or in YouTube, there's several videos of the Liverpool overhead there that you can look at, and quite a few photographs as well if you just search under images in Google. And I think I'm beginning to get close to the look of it. There's a few oddities. I don't like that very much there. That's the one of these sort of stretched a bit just to go around the curve. I may change that. This one here isn't too bad, I don't think. It's got a fairly, yeah, it's the same as that one, isn't it? But anyway, there we are. Obviously not a Great Western 94 XX pannier on there. It will have electric locomotives on it. And so that's my beginnings of my Liverpool Overhead Railway models. So those should be out, well, I would guess, I'm not going to release it until I have the rolling stock done. That's going to take another month or two. And also John, who has been trying to get my mixed gauge track to work as signalled track, has just sent me some stuff which I desperately need to look at. So it won't be immediately, but maybe March, April, spring, let's say spring. That's a pretty movable feast. Hopefully then this Liverpool overhead will be available, and I will be producing ordinary track, cross sleeper track, because this is a longitudinal sleeper track. There is actually, if you go zoom right in there, you can see there's actually, I don't like those joints. So those are the sort of things I've got to tidy up. I thought I'd sorted all that, but obviously not. Yeah, those junctions on those joins there look a bit obvious. So I want to lose that. And but it's a longitudinal sleeper, then the chairs, and then you've got these insulators. A little bit more frequent than on the original. They were about 3 of these. They had 3 of these sort of curved pieces between them, but I had to compromise on that. Also, it's slightly wider. I've actually made it about 2 foot wider than the original because I was having all sorts of problems with clearances and that sort of thing, and I'm not sure that I've solved all of those. So anyway, Liverpool Overhead Railway, that's my next project. That'll be the next thing to be coming out in a few months' time. A few more Great Western wagons to come out before then. Let's get those finished. And well, I hope you found this of interest. If you have, then please give me a thumbs up. Please leave any comments, any questions that you might have. I'll be happy to answer them. I'll try and answer them anyway. And please subscribe to my channel.